Welcome. Today we will be shining light on the most important information to every living being and ecosystem on this planet. This is the most complete piece on geo and bioengineering to date. The goal is to create awareness, teach discernment to sift through disinformation, share ways to protect yourself and loved ones, and ultimately stop the ongoing covert operations. Ignorance is not immunity. Knowledge is power. This presentation is meant to liberate you.
Believe it or not, they're launching geoengineering, aka chemtrails, whatever word you want to use, they're launching it as a solution now to a problem that doesn't even exist. They want to normalize it. So how is that possible that they want to say this is the solution while simultaneously telling you that it's not real still? To normalize it, to sidestep decades of treason and crimes against humanity. They come out in 2010 saying, we must stop global warming, we need something to stop this global warming. Well, if you know about ionospheric heaters and superheating the atmosphere and how many ionospheric heaters there are all over the world, you think twice about this whole global warming thing. They're superheating your atmosphere with Tesla technology, frequency tech, utilizing these metallic nanoparticulate aerosolized chemicals, poisoning the future of humanity, poisoning the plants and animals, and saying, and superheating them, and then saying, oh look, the planet might be heating up. We got to do something. I think we're going to block out your sun with chemicals. The aluminum has been sprayed at especially high levels since the mid-90s, causing colony collapse disorder in the bees. It's causing dementia and Alzheimer's. It's disrupting plants' ability to uptake water. Trees cannot uptake water because of the aluminum. It's acting as an accelerant in forest fires. It's ongoing, and this is going to be their solution. So they frame the debate, they control the conversation, and they control the outcome. So when I go out and I pass out my flyers, I say the word chemtrails, and people laugh because they've been programmed by their television programming. But geoengineering, so first we have to talk about the consolidation of the media. Those of us that are old enough to remember, there were unbiased news sources. There was real news before, but they've all been gobbled up. They've been consolidated by big money, by the same families. So in 1983, we had 50 companies. It's been consolidated now to 6 companies. You better believe those 6 companies are owned by the same families. If you've ever seen these news clips, the same scripted news is handed to every local news broadcaster daily. This is really important because now the controlled media, there's other publications I'm going to go through in this presentation, and I want you to look at the website and just know, wow, how long has that website even existed? And is that complete BS? And I want you to be able to see through it because your friends and family are going to share on Facebook this disinformation, misinformation. I'm not asking you to call them out, I'm asking you to know the truth. And eventually you'll feel it in your gut. So, problem, reaction, solution, and the reaction is always fear. And once we're in a state of fear, they come and they're here, we got the solution for you, don't be scared. So while they're controlling the conversation and controlling the outcome, and we're over here, geoengineering, chemtrails, which one is it? And people are hired on the street screaming chemtrails and controlling that narrative. And then other people are controlling the geoengineering narrative, which ultimately ended up being the solution to everything, mind you. CARE is the Charged Aerosol Release Experiment through NASA. In all of their documents, they talk about spraying the skies with aluminum, barium, strontium, making fake clouds, experimenting. They, quote, use the atmosphere as a laboratory. And in all their documents, they don't use the word chemtrails, contrails, or geoengineering. You better believe it because they know what they're doing. SRM is solar radiation management, managing our solar rays by blocking the sun with aerosolized chemicals, aluminum, barium, and strontium. They don't use the word geoengineering, chemtrails, or contrails. I wonder why. Solar radiation management governance initiative, a governance body put in place. Governance body for something that's a conspiracy theory? How does that make sense? SAI, stratospheric aerosol injections. The CIA director talks about this. Stratospheric aerosol injections. TAP. I could do a 2-hour presentation on TAP. TAP program will blow your mind. In 2001, right before we were about to be distracted by 9/11, the Department of Energy came out with TAP, the Tropospheric Aerosol Program. The Department of Energy. People always want to know who, what, why, where, when, how, before they can sink their teeth into it and really believe in something so crazy. And this is the WHO, the TAP program. Tropospheric Aerosol Program. Through the Department of Energy, they launched this full-on program. They have a 100-page document that they put out, and they gridded guys over Nashville, Tennessee, to all these different chemicals, and they put up different research devices is, and they said, yeah, we need to block the sun so that solar doesn't proliferate. Renewable energy will totally take down the Department of Energy, which is dirty energy, coal and oil. 100-page document. They talk about their budget. They spend $5 million in 2001 on not getting caught. And then SPICE, stratospheric particle injections for climate engineering. These are programs ongoing for the past couple decades, all hidden in plain sight. Feel free to look it up. It'll blow your mind. This is another search term that will blow your mind. Civil society actors. Because how are you to know unless you're here? And I spent my entire life researching this stuff. So they met in 2013 and they said, well, we can run circles around society because society is lousy at strategy. First, we're going to say it's a horrible idea, but it'll get the conversation going and it'll bring the word geoengineering to the public. But then it'll be their only option once we fearmonger our way to it. So they had their meeting in 2013 and immediately they're coming out with it. This is BBC. They all have variations of the same headline. And you're scrolling through your timeline, you see one of the headlines and you share it and you're like, oh yeah, look at this. Everybody is being tricked and brainwashed and programmed. But they're conditioning you. They're saying, look, geoengineering, supposed idea that we might do, they're showing you it. This is aerosolized barium. Oh, by the way, NASA's a bunch of liars. NASA has a budget this year of $52 million a day. Last year's $54 million a day. And they have a charged aerosol release experiment program that has a fleet of planes and drones that sprays barium, aluminum, strontium, mixing chemicals in our atmosphere. Publicly. The NASA photo of something that supposedly doesn't exist at the time, but it looks pretty real. I mean, it's not CGI, even though most of their photos are. Where the heck did they get that photo? 2015. Forbes magazine, Washington Post. Like, these are big publications. They see millions of people, right? Think about how many people they can control and the mental constructs that they can form and how they can manipulate society by controlling all the media. These are major publications. USA Today disprove chemtrail theory. Heaven forbid you've used that word chemtrail. You're crazy. We've disproved it with our scientific survey. New York Times, chemtrail, conspiracy theory. And they come out with these in just a few days, right? They flood your timeline, every social media. And everybody, and even my grandma was like, Matt, did you know that it's actually not real, whatever you're making your movie about? This is not even the half of it. And some of them are totally BS publications that were just created to push this narrative. And you better believe this came across almost everybody's plate, timeline. Your dad, your grandma's reading it in the front page. USA Today, you know? You see these headlines? Chemtrails are not real. Chemtrails aren't real, in case you were wondering. Chemtrails are harmless. Clouds. Chemtrails debunked. First published study on chemtrails. Chemtrail conspiracy theory. And then, okay, hold on, let's see the dates. August 14th, August 15th, August 16th, okay, 2016. August 24th, 2016. We're talking like a week later. We've got a solution for you. We can, climate hackers, one man's plan to stop global warming by shooting particles in the atmosphere. Funny, they didn't use the word geoengineering, chemtrails. This is our guy, David Keith. He's the one conducting the experiment. He contradicts himself. Maybe he's mind controlled. I try to just send him love, but I really hate him. He believes that these experiments, planes or balloons in the stratosphere, spray chemicals. Interesting. Where does he get his funding from? Millions of dollars from this guy, who, if you do a little research, he's not cool. He dreams of geoengineering, Bill Gates. And then along comes the New York Times yet again. This is still in 2016. Can humans go from unintended global warming to climate by design? Doesn't that sound fancy? Geoengineering is in the wind. More and more these days. That's actually kind of funny. Okay, that's enough. Let's learn discernment, cognitive dissonance. When you've built your life around believing in things, we're up against a mental conflict that occurs when beliefs or assumptions are contradicted by new information, okay? It's like, what, but wait, you're gonna bring down my whole mental paradigm? No, you can't do that. Like, whoa, bringing the truth to you. They get upset, people get angry. And I've analyzed this. This is my day in, day out, every day of my life. And I came up with this in the bathtub. Oh, how could they get away with all of this? Everybody, the pilots, the drone operators, the geoengineering students. It's this. It's indoctrination, compartmentalization, need-to-know basis. And you can apply it not to just to geoengineering, you can apply it to a lot of things. Remember these words when people ask you, how? How could they? Why would they spray themselves? I've heard that 100 times. What about the irregular pattern of appearance? There are not flight paths directly over Tucson. That's why we have blue, beautiful sky sometimes. But then all of a sudden, these planes zigzag. Let's even go to rural America in your backyard. Beautiful, fluffy clouds, beautiful day, beautiful day, beautiful day, beautiful day, beautiful day, beautiful. And then all of a sudden, And I'm a stats guy, right? I actually killed it in my stats class. And you can literally prove things through statistics. And if you have blue sky, blue sky, blue sky, no planes, no planes, no planes, and then all of a sudden planes are zigzagging over your head with lines coming out of the back, creating a milky haze in your sky, something's going on. That's it. That's all you have to bring to people is an irregular pattern of appearance. So you look up the word chemtrails, they'll tell you you're crazy. But then, businessinsider.com, they'll literally show you a photo of it and say, we need to keep the earth habitable. It's habitable right now, right? And it will be habitable forever if we stop this crime against humanity. But they're trying to trick us into thinking that this is some last ditch, save ourselves, we have to do this. And if we don't bring the truth to the people, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen right before our eyes. No guilt trip. I'm just saying, we need to get active, we need to get organized, we need to bring the truth to the masses. Ted Gunderson was an FBI chief. He was amazing. He spoke his truth. He died mysteriously. Kylie Jenner, more Snapchat followers than anybody on earth. She's got a massive Twitter following, and before she got what I believe to be silenced, she asked some very pertinent questions. Why did I see 75 planes spraying white stuff in the sky on my way to work today? There's other musicians coming out, there's celebrities that are getting vocal. But you better believe the money is saying, whoa, whoa, you want to keep your job, you shut up. In the 70s in St. Louis, the Air Force did an experiment, quote unquote experiment, I love the word. They sprayed, St. Louis, Missouri, radioactive cadmium over the project to see how many children would die. This is fact. The thing is people are like, oh, that was in the 70s. No, it's gotten worse. It's gotten worse. When Clifford talks, I have to hold back tears. A lot of people don't know about Project Popeye. You can experiment on your own, people. This is a House of Representatives bill. No, it's not a conspiracy theory term. It's used, and they know it. They just create this mental paradigm so that you can get laughed at if you use the word. Like I said, NASA uses the atmosphere as a laboratory. This is a photo from NASA. And then in 1996, the U.S. Air Force came out with the paper, Owning the Weather by 2025. And believe me, they're way ahead of schedule. We've got aerotoxic syndrome, 1999. Never before were people getting poisoned by being in an airplane. But all of a sudden, these flight attendants are getting ill. The ongoing chemtrail program that's happening right in your face. We got to give this syndrome a name because the flight attendants and the pilots and the people in the planes are getting ill from the nanoparticulate aluminum and barium and strontium, cadmium, lithium. President Ahmadinejad, he came out in this very eloquent speech and he said, someone came to me with this information, I laughed at them. And come to find out, the clouds are being drained before they hit my country. Record heat waves. This is one of the last countries that doesn't have a central bank, FYI. HAMP, Hurricane Atmospheric Modification Program. The list goes on. This presentation could be so lengthy. And they create these crazy climate catastrophes. And then they say, oh, look, climate change. We gotta block out your sun. And for the first time in history, they termed the word atmospheric river fire hose. New words just keep popping up. You want another word? Check out thunderstorm asthma. People were dropping dead on the streets because their experiment went a little awry and they put too much barium in Australia. And then a couple weeks later, is in Kuwait. HAARP is the Highly Active Auroral Research Program. It's an acronym. First started off in Alaska. They've consolidated this technology. Now we have these ionospheric heaters all over the world. They can create high pressure, and that's what they do to control the weather. That's what they do to create heat waves. When you see these ripples in the sky, that's what they're doing. So this is the HAARP station, the first one. It's the antenna array. They utilize Tesla technology. And Tesla, who the technology was stolen from, he said, if you can control the resonant system electronically, you can control the entire mental system of mankind. So when they start tampering with electromagnetic field and frequencies, you better believe it's not just in the sky, it's at ground level. So when people say, oh, well, they couldn't do that, I'd like to bring them to the patents. These patents tell a story. You don't patent things just out of the clear blue sky. You don't patent things just for fun. You patent things because you have the technology and you don't want anybody to take it from you. And they're using the atmosphere as a laboratory. They're mixing chemicals. Wonder why they wanted to come up with aluminum-tolerant genetics? Because their seeds are the only things that are going to grow in this dystopian future that we're approaching. Patents tell the story, and they just keep going on and on and on and on and on and on and on, and it's very real. There was a meeting in Chicago, May of last year. They were establishing a self-proclaimed solar geoengineering governance regime. This very small group claim that they have exclusive rights to saving the planet, a regime to govern the full-scale deployment of geoengineering, meaning they want to whiten the skies everywhere on Earth all at once. To make it sound gentle, they say it's a Mount Pinatubo effect. They want to mimic a volcanic eruption. You better believe they spray the skies with nanoparticulate aerosol crystallized, oxidized aluminum all over, all at once, it's going to create a greenhouse effect. Problem, reaction, solution. Then they'll say, oh no, we need to spray more. The ongoing social engineering, especially for the children, continues. Now we have new clouds. Through Hollywood, the mental constructs of society are formed, and they push the envelope to a point where anything short of that is okay. Look at this graphic. Plant a seed in your head that the world is melting like an ice cream cone and something needs to happen. 2017, BBC. This is real. Oh wait, it's not real. Just kidding. But what about your publication? What about all that stuff you said before? But we have this bad idea that we need. We're going to mimic a volcano. We're going to spray the skies. We need it. Artificially reducing sun rays to stop global warming could destroy the world. Oh, that's comforting. You see the imagery? You see how they're playing with us? Pretty pictures to go on your Facebook and your Twitter and your what have you, Instagram. The idea that we will science our way out of climate change is dangerous. So they're building it up, saying it's bad, but they're saying it's all we need, but what they're doing is they're sidestepping the karma from destroying the planet. Oh no, we warned you. See the photo? We warned you. It's time to admit the age of pristine nature is over. In its place is humanity and planet-shaping technologies, from gene editing to climate engineering. This is your attack on discernment. You should be able to see this, say, whoa, 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 whoa. What are they trying to pull off here? Geoengineering materials may be feasible and affordable. They start saying, oh, it's cheap, don't worry, it's cheap. This is by David Keith. A cheap but dangerous solution by David Keith. Mother Earth has a fever, is the name of that headline. Sorry folks, chemtrail conspiracies are bullshit. Oh wait, okay, nice photo though. They're just trying to confuse you. Simultaneously saying that they've developed an aerosol to repair the ozone layer. Aerosols can significantly cool down the planet. Aerosols could alleviate global warming and cool the planet, but we're gonna lose our stars. They don't bother telling us that we're gonna lose the sun. That would be too much. First they want to tell us you're gonna lose your stars. Make it gentle. So Obama signs it in, he's playing God. Get to blame him as he leaves office, and Trump opens the door, and geoengineering gets the green light. Here we are in 2017. Green light. Aerosols to protect the Earth. Could be catastrophic. And then we've got new clouds. 12 new clouds. Each one of those 12 new clouds with name. And believe me, I've talked to people and they say, no, my dad showed me that cloud has a name. Just because it has a name doesn't mean anything. They've given it a name because they know that once it has a name, you'll think it's okay. It's all chemtrails. It's all treason. It's all crimes against humanity. It's all poisoning the future of this planet, even though it's 12 different names. The plane vapor trail's a name. And then Harvard comes out and says, we're gonna spray you. Conspiracy theory no more. Harvard scientists reveal big oil approved. Oh, well if it's big oil approved, that's great. And here's the name of the clouds. Homo mutatus. This is for real. I posted this on the internet and people said, oh nice meme, Matt, that's hilarious. I said, it ain't funny, it's not me either, man. I didn't make it up. Mind you, Tropospheric Aerosol Program 2001. Okay, here we are 16 years later and their plan is unfolding right before our eyes and we're the victim. So here it is, they start giving it a dollar bill amount. That's the diagram, they want to block it out. And here's the new cloud. Look at them go. The world's coolest rainbow appeared over California this week. Fire rainbows only appear in the US about 5 times a year. April 26, 2018. MotherJones.com. Okay? Please learn discernment. Please recognize what they're doing. Look at that. This is chemicals. This is poison. They're poisoning us and our children and the plants and the animals and everything on Earth. But don't worry. The meteorologists say it's okay. It's homogenesis series. Oh yeah, Futurism.com. I hate that, by the way. Futurism.com. Some of these publications, they just push it. They just keep saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and nobody even looks at the website. Futurism.com. They're horrible. And now it's time for government. They just had an idea, and now they have governance bodies in place. Again, Eddy.net. I don't think this publication existed before they came out with this article. Look at the sky. Earther.com. April 23rd, 2018. Earther.com. And the graphic. Come on. Does that look like a fun time? The machines that could darken the sun to stop climate change. Climate change is dangerous. The dangerous belief that extreme technology will fix the climate. So they're still saying it's dangerous, but we need to fix the climate. So let's create this debate so that eventually we can tell you, well, it's our only option. Can we engineer our way out of global warming? Scientists discussed the risk and feasibility of using solar geoengineering to cool us off. March 8th, 2018. This is what they predict after full-scale deployment our planet will look like. Does this look like a planet you want to live on? But don't worry, we're just faking a volcano. And if we start, we cannot stop. Don't worry, we started 20 years ago. And it's very dangerous. But once we start, we can't stop. And it'll save us from collapse. But it's a sudden collapse will doom the planet. This is the guy, this is the front runner, this is the solar geoengineer. This is the man making money. His entire everything revolves around this. He's a solar geoengineering professor. And he's the guy with the thermostat, he calls it, to planet Earth. He calls it a thermostat. And he's like, oh, well, if I'm in charge, don't worry. Look at him. He says this. He says, well, really, it's just free riding on our grandkids. Are we going to set up a planet that our grandkids can't even live on? Ask yourself that. And he says, if we turn down the sun a little bit, that'll bring Earth's energy into more balance. The Economist. Okay, Tucson, here we are, 2018. Okay. Harvard scientists, Trump administration, SRM technology, solar radiation management. Scientists say that we can do it with a balloon. Worldview Technologies. Every time I do a conference like this, every time I do anything, people say, what's next? What do we do next? What do we do next? I'm like, pass out some flyers or something. I don't know, you know? Go tell somebody, like, what can we do? What can we do? Tell someone about my movie. Tell someone about my website, actualactivists.com. Become an actual activist. Give me your address. I'll send you flyers. Tell people about frankenskiesmovie.com. Lead people to stop geoengineeringtucson.com. They're launching chemtrails as a solution, and they're using Tucson as the place to do it for the world. This will go down in history as the place where David Keith had an experiment and it worked. And now they're going to launch full-scale deployment and take away the blue skies for everybody on Earth. And their Stratocruiser and their climate action. They want to get this balloon thing and spray different chemicals in front of the sun to see which ones work best to block out our sun, right? They're officializing this. They want to launch full-scale deployment. What are we at war? Well, we are. It's a silent war, quiet war. But he even says he wants to use aluminum. He even says Tucson, Arizona. He even says Worldview Enterprises. I'm not making this up, okay? This is fact. This is what's going on. And yeah, the media's controlled, they lie, but they're not lying about this. First it was space mirrors, then it was diamond dust, then it was sulfuric acid, then it was table salt, then now it's aluminum. But think about this narrative. It started here at the university, and then it went down the street, and it went to Worldview. It's all coming out of Tucson, Arizona. Welcome to the heart of the beast, people. Indoctrination, first part. Compartmentalization, need to know basis, right? It's time to get out there and spread that word. It's time to wake up some people. We do not consent to our skies being taken away. We do not consent to being experimented upon. And we demand the truth. Let's talk about the gravity of this situation. Let's talk about our ancestry and our past and the future of humanity. Our ancestors, your bloodline, your DNA, they fought, they died for us to get us the freedoms that we have that we're about to lose. So let's honor them. Thank you.
Presenting his findings on Morgellons and bioengineering, Clifford is an esteemed researcher that founded the Carnicom Institute, a non-profit organization working solely for the benefit of humanity and the public interest.
People want the soundbite. Here's the soundbite. You have been lied to. There is a public health issue. Many of us have heard of the term or familiar with it. The name has been given Morgellons, and I'm a public servant. I regard it as a public health issue. The Institute treats this issue seriously. The Institute believes that people that have reasonable claim and cause to alleviate suffering and pain are to be addressed, and they are given fair evaluation. The Institute conducted what I regard as an impartial and honest survey regarding this health condition involving roughly 1,000 people across the globe, certainly primarily in the US, but it was accessible across the globe, and these are the results. And one, again, looks at data, and you ask, are there any patterns in the data? This summary, I think it's about 8,000 pages long in terms of the actual data that was collected. This is my attempt to convey to you in a summary fashion the high-level, executive summary of the results of this survey. These are the symptoms. They are an identifiable, unique set of symptoms. Of course, there is overlap, but those top three are very interesting. Notice materials or substances emerging from the skin. This is all connected. Everything I'm talking about is connected. When I start talking to you very early about the EPA and refusal to identify a certain type of filament material that's in the environment, and I'm telling you that, I'm saying this was the early information that set the stage for a problem. When that happened at the very beginning, I said, that's a legal issue, folks. You cannot refuse on that basis. That is illegal. I have to live with that, and I have to live with it. Now I'm living with certain data. You notice that they don't put the word filament. But guess what the nature of materials or substances emerging from the skin is? It usually encompasses a filament structure. These are accomplishments of which I have some sense of pride in terms of it's hard work. This was a result of years of work. But I won't have time to read it. But the point here is that it's the bottom line that's important with our time. The argument is there are things known. I'm one small part of it, but I've done my part best I can. This business about this health condition, this is not some vague unknown. This is not some mystery that we know nothing about. There is a great deal known about this health condition. And this is a summary of some of the work that this organization has provided to the public if you're willing to look into it. We know a great deal about this. Involved with this health issue. You will be dealing with physical material. You will have to examine that physical material, and you will have to ask yourself, what is the nature of that physical material? I have actually received many, many samples of this material over the years. I'm intimately familiar with this material. All that white you see, all in the distance, that is a filament nature material, covering the entire landscape. So I have something that now is documented at the level that I need it to be. You have been lied to by many sources on this issue, and you have been told that the presence of that filament material occurring in environmental locations across actually the globe. I have samples from about 12 countries now, 12 different places. It's international. You have been told that that material, that they are spider webs. This is what you're told, okay? You are told that they're spider webs. When I'm given a line of reasoning, I will investigate that. I will make the absolute statement to you, they are not spider webs, okay? Absolutely not spider webs. I will prove to you that they are not spider webs. There will be many ingenious variations on that theme that you will be given to convince you that they are spider webs. They are not. We go wherever you need to go to have that debate. What I get to show you very quickly are photographs that will make the case in brief. This is the webpage that's presented on this subject. Very quickly, what you're seeing are representative countries over which samples have come forth over the last 20 years. This is the sample material taken directly from the ground, of which there are many, it's not a single one. And then there's spider webs that I collected, and this is the issue, comparison of the two. Can you make your decision there? Not very easily, I don't think. Watch the photographs very quickly as I go through them. It's under the scope. You have many ways of answering the question. The simplest way to answer the question is just put it under a scope, a good scope. There, you will see a comparison. You will see a comparison as we go along. You had it visually first. Watch the progression. The top one is, oh, they're both side by side. I'm running side by side. I'll give you my interpretation. Can't see a difference. Can't establish any difference between them. Keep going. Oh, I see the environment is up top and the spider's web. I cannot draw any firm conclusion. And number, where are we at? Okay, now we're going to moderate magnification. Okay. All right, right. So let's go this way. Spider webs, moderate. I'm boosting it up a little bit. Okay. Environmental filament. I'm boosting it up a little. Oh, it's starting to look a little different to me. I don't know about you folks, but it's starting to look a little different to me. This is a spider web. I'll go over characteristics, right? It's smooth, it's linear, right? Nothing real strong or unusual happening with the surface and morphology of it. Something's starting to happen on this one. This is the environmental filament. Okay, keep moving. Oh, that's a control. That's an accepted control of spider web. You'll see that looks amazingly similar to those that I have. Okay, now we're going somewhere. This is I'd rather show you these. Let me show you the spider first. This is the spider web. Pretty high magnification here. I'm running about 3,000 to 5,000, something like that. That's the spider web. This is the environment filament. Okay. This is an open ball game, folks, in terms of what we'll be talking about from here on. Okay. I won't make it today, but if we all care, I talk. This is not a spider web. This is now a sufficient magnification to reveal the visual differences between them. What does that mean? Short and sweet to me, there's stuff happening inside of these filaments. Very active inside. The filament to me is not the primary issue, it's what's inside the filament. And there's a world of activity going on here, and I will tell you that everything says that it's biological activity. Okay? This is not some unnerving. This is a very complex arrangement, and we're talking about pretty high magnification, and there's tremendous substructure taking place here. And there is biology here. This is about 8,000, 5 to 8,000 magnification. Okay, there's a lot of structure going on inside. It's very small. We're talking, okay, frame of comparison. Asbestos fiber, okay, back up. Human hair, about 60 microns in thickness, how big our hair is. Asbestos fibers, about 2 microns in thickness. Do any of you, do you remember any concern about having asbestos fibers in the environment? Not a cool thing? Okay, 2 microns thick. This material here will measure at less than a micron in thickness. Okay. you should be asking some questions right away. Unexplained, unidentified, submicron filament environment. Repeated presence, international. Okay, I need to point out right there. Do you see the little circles in there? Okay, this is really pushing it in terms of certainly what my scope and equipment can do. This is the first time that I can teeter on that edge of what they call nanotechnology. People use the word nanotechnology very loosely without an understanding what that really means. We don't actually have access to tools that allow us to see nanotechnology in any ready fashion. I'm skirting the edge right there. Those little dots will measure about 250 nanometers, about a quarter of a micron, those little bitty dots right there. Those little bitty dots are extremely important to me. How can I summarize it? You remember I mentioned this health condition called the Morgellons and how that's been treated and handled over the years? Those little dots, from my position as an independent researcher over the last 20 years, are at the very crux and heart of the existence of the Morgellons condition. Absolute heart and crux. And ever since I saw that little dot, I was always very interested, because that little dot is not just a little dot. The research would say that it is most likely of the bacterial class. It is alive. It is biology. And I don't claim things with certitude that I can't, that I'm not able to justify, but I will say there's very strong evidence that the nature and behavior of this material, I've cultured it, I've studied this particular microorganism extensively. It has, let's say, very, very strong hints of what you would call genetic engineering, unusual biological characteristics within it. Stage is set. We know what we need to do. You and everyone else you know, you need to help me communicate that. There is no excuse. It is not allowed to stay in this mystery state that we don't know anything about. I'm not saying I'm the sole source, but I'm saying we know enough. And this is an excellent example of what we know. I have identified and isolated a protein from that microorganism. This is the infrared plot of it, which starts to tell you some of the things about the structure of it. It's powerful information because it's telling you about the chemical nature of this protein. Okay. Proteins are so fundamental, and when you get to the point where you have knowledge of a protein, you're way beyond the point of some mystery condition. This is on the web. I've got 3 different things going on. Okay, all right, so here I'm setting the stage for protein, right? And I'm saying proteins are important. Okay, we get to look at some pictures real quick. So this is a water-soluble protein. And I said, well, how would this protein in water might affect plant growth? So I put a little bit of this protein in some water, and I grew some plants. Okay? And so I ran some germination experiments. And this is a normal plant. That's normal. That's a mustard seed. Okay? And so that's normal. Everything's fine. This is that same mustard seed subjected to a protein solution. In this case, it was 2%. I'm sorry, folks, the seeds did not germinate. You have to deal with it. But the seeds did not germinate. Okay? Your brain should start to spin, right? What does it mean? What does it mean? Interference with growth? Growth fundamental to the existence of life on this planet? Agriculture. Please just don't even think of human beings. We tend to do it. But think of life. I'll run through them real fast for you because you have to see them. Normal growth. Normal growth. Yeah, now bean. Here's a bean. Full-size bean. That's a normal growth. That's subjected to the protein. 2%. You've got to be asking what's happening. I wish I had infinite time. You don't know how much I wish I had help. I need a whole team. I need what the EPA has. Imagine what the EPA has not done. Imagine what the CDC has not done. I need all of those people. I also need the budget to go with it, but I need that expertise on these things I'm talking to you about. I need them badly. I don't have them, but this means so much to me. You know what it says? If If agriculture of this planet might be affected, okay, that's two. What did I do next? I'm not a clinic. I have limits on what I can do. I had to evaluate this myself. I can't work on people. I don't conduct any clinical trials. What can I do? So I went to yeast. I looked at this thing with respect to yeast. This is yeast. This is a normal growth of yeast under the microscope. Made it a little bigger. I made it a little bigger for you, right? Okay, yeast cells. Now, did you remember the original pictures? They're just round. Nice and simple. They're not round. Look at this. The shape is changing, right? That shape is changing. You see the round, but you see what happens? It almost looks like there's a double. Look at that one there. We've got that fancy guy. See that? Looks like they're doubling up, right? It looks like they've doubled up and joined. I have to use the word mutation here. This is protozoa. Euglena on the left and Paramecium on the right. This is protein. These are normal. These guys are buzzing around. They're pretty hard on the microscope, actually. They're really moving. Everything's fine. What happens here? If I can equate it to our sort of the anthropomorphism type thing of our way of looking at life, it's not the right phrase because of the whole taxonomy and internal structure. But I would use the phrase neural disruption is what I would use. And I'm not saying nerves, understand me. I can use a more proper phrase of motor dysfunction. Okay, I can use that phrase. These things are messed up. They are dysfunctional and they are not moving. You see the oscillation that will take place. They do not have the motile behavior that they require to survive, to exist, and to reproduce. Where did the protein come from? Protein comes from microorganism. Microorganism comes from environmental filament sample, received internationally on multiple occasions. Direct associations and parallels with certain public health situations of great dire magnitude. And that graphic is showing various ways that I have looked at the environment. You'll see that air filtration, okay? Environmental filament, right? You see that? See the things that are going on? Environmental filament, air filtration, skin samples. What's that last one? Concentrated protein. What's that say? Rainfall, right? And the other one, biological sample. Oh, hair select. See, body samples, physical samples. And what I'm saying is, there's a common identifying organic structure and characteristics that are being identified between all of them together. And that's why those guys are linked into that circle. That's a really heavy slide in terms of what it's saying. What I have spoken of today may be, without doubt, overwhelming in many respects. I would claim that there are indeed serious injustices that are in place across this planet and to all life that dwells upon it. It has taken a fair amount of evidence to be able to make these disclosures to you. The motive for the research and dedication from the beginning is not the pursuit of information. It is the pursuit of truth. Thank you.
Among the many accolades of the next speaker, Alana Freeland, the most applicable for this presentation is her recent book, Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown.
I realized what was happening inside my body had to do with what was falling from the sky. Now I have brought out the second book, which is the one on the space fence, and this one is the next phase of the chemical trails that we've now been subject to for 2 decades under Project Cloverleaf. I'm now engaged in writing the third and last book, which is on synthetic biology. Because if I've found anything out that is the most disturbing, it is the synthetic biology that we are breathing in, ingesting, and taking in, and that it surrounds us now on a nanoscale. The ability of the HAARP/Spacelab/rocket combination to deliver very large amounts of energy comparable to a nuclear bomb anywhere on Earth via laser and particle beams is frightening. And this is the technology that I am now going to go into. I wanted to illuminate the whole Earth. There is enough electricity to become a second sun. CNN said the space fence was worn out and, needed to be, quote, restrung, unquote. 5 years on, we still hear very little little about the space fence, other than in the context of space garbage, the new unit going up in Kwajalein Atoll of the Marshall Islands, and cool Lockheed Martin space videos like this one. The truth is that the space fence is about far more than space debris, satellites and rockets. In fact, it is CNN's word restrung that points to the truth of what it is about. Like Jade Helm a few years ago, the military exercise in the American Southwest in 2015, the space fence is about global network-centric warfare under artificial intelligence in order to, as the military puts it, master the human domain.
Lockheed Martin's Space Fence System is a ground-based system of S-band radars designed to greatly enhance the Air Force space surveillance network. It provides unprecedented sensitivity, coverage, and tracking accuracy, and contributes to key mission threads with the ability to detect, track, and catalog small objects. It offers assured surveillance coverage for improved custody. The Space Fence system includes up to 2 minimally manned radar sites, mission processing, and the system operations functionality. Each radar site features a design boasting closely spaced but separate transmit and receive arrays that are mission optimized for high availability. The arrays are continuously calibrated in the background, providing a higher degree of accuracy. And by optimizing a second site with a smaller array and margin for future capability growth, the radar sites are cost-effective as well as powerful. Location of these radar sites provides assured coverage.
Every time I listen to this video, all the terms that are in it, if we could but unlock each of those terms, we would have the entire secret space program right there. That's Lockheed Martin. And finally, show one more big player, and you know who it is, it's CERN.
You see those bendings right there, guys, both the north and solar and south poles of our magnetopause. It only occurs when CERN is running at very high power. Look at this. And when that happens, it creates ground currents in the earth. All currents, Peterson currents. Notice that. Very important. Incoming and outgoing energy here. Now, why is CERN built underground in the northern hemisphere? You just saw it. To take advantage of these ground currents. As that energy is increased, the magnetic lines of force that we use for our compasses, that the whales and the birds use for navigation, there's a tremendous amount of energy that's going into the core of our planet. CERN is situated exactly where they need to be to not only take energy from this to power their demonic machines, but they can actually manipulate. Look, we saw the first pulse this afternoon to the left of this, caused a 6-point earthquake, then another sudden pulse. These are pulses that are being emitted. Look at the time between here and look at CERN. These people are on the verge of causing utter destruction. Guys, you're seeing a group of mad scientists about to utterly create chaos on our planet.
So BP Earthwatch, that was in 2017, about a year ago, and I've shown you 3 videos, and they're all about why the chemtrails program may be replaced eventually, because there are problems with it, and I don't think our health is number one, but there are other problems with it. They may find a way to keep the atmosphere ionized. I think what they're trying to do is they're developing plasma, and that's the 4th state of matter, in our atmosphere. There are lots of plasma experiments. Many of you see them on the internet. You don't know what you're looking at, but I recognize now not only the plasma experiments, but the plasma clouds that are in the cloud cover that we see every day. Plasma is a very big, high energy system that I think they're attempting to create energy from. And it could be that that's how they see they will be able to keep our atmosphere ionized between plasma and radio frequency and microwave units that are on the Earth. And that's really what the Under an Ionized Sky book is loaded with, is explaining the infrastructure of the ground system that is the corollary to the space fence that is in the LEO, the low Earth orbit, or the NEO, the near Earth orbit. So I've showed you 3 things to think about. Okay, CERN, definitely, the particle accelerator, where CERN is, what it is able to do to our magnetosphere and our magnetopause are very dangerous. I showed you the space fence itself, which has a tremendous infrastructure, low Earth orbit, all the way down on Earth. And then I showed you the ULF band that is forming around the Earth. These are all my way of saying this is not going to end because of a citizen protest. What we need to do, in my opinion, what I work so hard to do, is develop a knowledge base of the technology. Put in the next factor, which is the AI system. The announcement of Robot Sophia's Saudi Arabian citizenship is actually an announcement of the reign of artificial intelligence, or as they call it, machine learning. I don't know how many of you are following the symbolic language of the entire Microsoft computer world, nerd world, but many of the terms they're using you should think twice about, because they are not simply cute and clever. They are actually naming many of these AI machines, supercomputers, etc., in order to reflect a certain reality in the language of symbols in our subconscious. And if you don't think that's power, then you haven't studied symbols and how they've been used to exploit and control populations for millennia. So I pay very, very close attention to the names of things. Palantir is an all-powerful, yet no one knows it even exists. Palantir's defense systems include advanced biometrics and walls impenetrable to radio waves. It's in, by the way, Palo Alto. Where else? Where else would it be? To be able to see in darkness or blinding light. Palantir means one that sees from afar, a mythical instrument of omnipotence. A palantir is a seeing stone in J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, a dark orb used by Saruman to be able to see in darkness. It cannot be accessed by merely sophisticated hacking. It requires digital passcodes held by dozens of independent parties, those whose identities are themselves protected by blockchain. I love this picture. So here we see our president with Saudi prince and king. Oh no, Saudi prince, and then who's the guy on the left? I forgot. I think he's Egypt. But now the king's son is dead, I heard. I'm sure it was just accidental. Let's listen to Jordy. I just told you that symbolic language is not just being cute and clever. Let's listen to Jordy and kind of get inside his head.
This is what they look like. There are two of them. These are from our lab in Burnaby.
This is the D-Wave.
From the outside, they look like giant black monoliths, big metal boxes, about 10 feet on a side, 12 feet tall. And they are powered, they have a fridge inside them, a refrigerator that cools these chips to almost absolute zero. Just a wisp, a fraction of a degree above absolute zero. Hundreds of times colder than interstellar space. Amongst the coldest and most isolated and extreme conditions that humans have ever been able to engineer. These fridges, interestingly enough, which are called pulse tube dilution refrigerators, have a thing called a pulse tube, which emits a sound roughly once per second, which sounds eerily like a heartbeat. So if you have the opportunity to stand next to one of these machines, it is an awe-inspiring thing, at least for me. It feels like an altar to an alien god. They really are impressive machines.
What Jordy's saying about an alien god, we have to really think about this. What is an intelligent machine? There is a saying that haunts me as I study all of this, and that is that nature abhors a vacuum. If you have an entity, machine, that has intelligence, if the intelligence was modeled on the study of the human brain, which all the studies on the brain under Obama and previously were about, was to really map and understand how the human brain works for the sake of artificial intelligence, then what happens to these machines that are in the image, not of God, but of the human being? And I wanted you to know that the D-Wave, there are many places that are buying it. It's very expensive. Excepting the U.S. Army, which prefers a Raytheon-made AI system, every major U.S. military and intelligence agency, Lockheed Martin, NASA, Google, they all use D-Wave, and so does CERN. And he is an Israeli-born British physicist at the University of Oxford in the Department of Atomic and Laser Physics at the Center for Quantum Computation at Clarendon Lab. And he says quantum computation will be the first technology that allows useful tasks to be performed in collaboration between parallel universes. And of course, parallel universes, now we're in the quantum land, very fascinating. And I will be covering that in the next book on synthetic biology. technology. So now let's talk about 5G. I think I have seen the most citizen respond to 5G, much more than to anything else that I've attempted to present. And that's very interesting to me. I'm not sure why that has happened. I'm not sure how much of the press released on 5G has come from the bad guys that are putting up the 5G. I'm not quite sure what's going on with it, but I am studying it, and I thought I'd share a few things with you. So here we have the frequency, and electromagnetics is the name of the game today, folks. This is our map for the control systems that are being imposed upon us very quietly. So you see here that blue area, that blue rectangle, that's the frequency range of the 5G, and it's between microwave and infrared. It's not a terawave, but it is close to it. The tinier the wave, the more power there is. This is something that we need to be aware of because 5G is coming. But in the 5G, you have actual beam technology. The arrays are going to track each other so that whenever you are, wherever you are, a beam from your smartphone is going to be aimed directly at the base station, the cell tower, and a beam from the base station is going to be aimed directly at you. If you walk between someone's phone and the base station, both beams will go right through your body. The beam from the tower will hit you even if you are standing near someone who is on a smartphone. And if you are in a crowd, multiple beams will overlap and be unavoidable. At present, smartphones emit a maximum of about 2 watts and usually operate at a power of less than 1 watt. However, inside a 5G phone, there may be 8 tiny arrays, all working together to track the nearest cell tower and aim a narrowly focused beam at it. The FCC has recently adopted rules allowing the effective power of those beams to be as much as 20 watts. The FCC is allowing 5G phones to come to market that will have an effective radiated power, that's ERP, that is 10 times as high as 4G phones. Here we have a smart city. Kind of take a peek at all the different electronic that are wireless, wirelessly transmitted, wirelessly triggered, and this is our dilemma. We bought into this with our convenience and comfort items. Now it's arisen around us, and this is the Artemis. Artemis was the virgin goddess, if you remember. She was the goddess of the hunt, and she was absolutely a virgin, had nothing to do with reproduction, in other words. The Fullerton Informer thinks that this is a mass sterilization program. This is P-cell tech, and that's what 5G is. Harnesses and combines radio signals, even interference, to create extra wireless energy around each individual mobile device, following the device wherever it goes. And what he blames in schools are the iPads. The iPads are everywhere, in every classroom, and students are using them almost exclusively for notes and everything else. And they're taking them from one classroom to another. But certainly in Northern European countries, they are banning all wireless technologies in their schools, libraries, and civic centers. Banned, out, none. A photo, a graphic from a site on P-cells. You see the pings, ping, 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 all over the place. This is what is next. Dr. Jack Cruz, whom I appreciate very much, he's a neurosurgeon. So you think when you mix a blue light with a 5G light, that it has no consequences? Laugh out loud. I love EMF deniers. Confirmed under oath in government hearings that the frequency of the Wi-Fi was 2.45 gigahertz. That means that a 2.45 gigahertz router sends out light waves moving at multiples of 2.45 billion cycles per second. 5G works 24 to 90 billion cycles per second. You think that escalation of waveforms has no impact? Golnikov confirmed this fact by saying under oath in a federal hearing that the 2.45 gigahertz would oscillate 4.9 billion times per second. Do you know that the mitochondria in all human cells oscillate at 100 hertz? The neocortex oscillates at 40 hertz, and the circadian oscillators all vibrate at 7.83 hertz, the Schumann resonance. Do you think that these waves from tech gear are a mismatch at some level of how we generate energy in a mitochondria? Do you think this won't affect beta oxidation or glucose metabolism or oxygen levels? Could this reduce energy in many ways we fail to realize to cause most modern diseases? I'll tell you what it means. That That means the electromagnetic fields from the Wi-Fi router anywhere on Earth will expand and collapse cells and organelles in some or any cells inside our bodies 4.9 billion times per measurable second. Now it is getting ready to go up to 90 billion cycles per second. You have to be a moron not to see the risk. And you think this has no effect on cells? I've got a bridge to sell you in a desert. This is where you can change a species in one generation. That's something that I would give you as an assignment to research. All of this has to do with exposure to radiation. So what does it have to do with what we're breathing in from the chemical trails? The aluminum, the strontium, the barium, the lithium, the titanium, these nanoparticles coming into our bodies. And aren't they, just as they do in the upper atmosphere and the troposphere, aren't they also conducting in our bodies? And this is why the space fence comes, boom. 5G comes, boom. Just after we've all been inundated by what we have now breathed in. Are they connected? Yes, I'm saying they're connected. 5G voice to skull. I know a few targeted individuals have spoken with me today. How many targeted individuals are there in the United States? Well, I would guess several 100,000. I certainly know they're in Europe because some of them call me on a bi-weekly basis to talk. So if we're conducting better because of the metals in us, and then we have those sensors. I'm going to show those next. The nanotech revolution happened very quietly, as do most national security programs in the US. And the nano is probably the biggest deal to me about right now. We are unable, our immune system is unable to handle the nano onslaught that we are breathing in. Nanotechnology taken in through eating, breathing, and exposure. Nanotechnology gestates 24 to 72 hours upon which it will morph and assimilate. The beginning of breaking down of bodily raw material for biology to use through cells or tissues, using anything it can access. Congregation of particles in an area to further integrate or assimilate material by which it will shape the material into a conical, circular, or cylindrical particle, which will accumulate in the building block it has already created. It will continue to expand, attaching itself to other synthetics, that it's connected to everything before. General Petraeus, telling it like it is, items of interest will be located, identified, monitored, and remotely controlled through technologies such as radio frequency identification, sensor networks, tiny embedded servers, and energy harvesters, all connected to the next generation internet using abundant, low-cost, and high-power computing. We are being plugged in to the internet. These are the MEMS, GEMS, and NEMS. These are sensors. You have breathed them in, I promise you, because they are nanoscale, and they have been distributed by the trillions in the upper atmosphere. Goes in. So this is how we are being plugged into the internet system. This is coming out of some people's bodies. There are a lot of interesting things coming out of people's bodies. I'm sure Clifford alluded to it. These are from Suzanne Marr, and notice the hexagonal appearance. Now we get into the genetic experiments that are being run, which is weaponized RNA, with us being used as guinea pigs. Cyclotron resonance or high-power Wi-Fi microwave energy is the catalyst. We are resonant beings. This is our problem with the frequencies being pulsed now, that the formulas for the spraying are identical in signature to the formulas used in fracking wells and in the sounding rockets that are spewing various chemicals on their way to near-Earth orbit. So this is very important that the signature of these chemicals is also in us, and we're being connected to all of these different delivery systems. I'm just going to show you some clouds. This one, serrations generally indicate pulsing. You know that. Either lithium or barium rich. This is a plasma chemical cloud with this ragged edging going on. This one, lithium chloride. Here we have strange boogie woogies in the sky. This is, of course, Clifford's 7th operation, which is, detection of exotic propulsion craft. Sounding rocket launch, another one, and this is our reality. He says there's so much more to the story. Ionospheric charging, Alvin wave, solar radiation influx, DEW technology. They say hurricanes are a product of evaporation and water temperature with no reference to atmospheric charge potential. Ion channeling is the mechanism to propagate energy, yet they don't mention Alvin wave downward cascades. HAARP, which Eastland designed, didn't simply heat an area of the ionosphere, it created Alvin waves that energized the entire planet and induced solar activity via out-of-phase Birkeland current filaments between the Earth and Sun. If we're going to win this debate, we have to do the research to fully understand this mechanism. My earnest hope is that we can bridge the gap and connect people to the new paradigm. If we don't seize this opportunity, their next move is already in place to blame the sun for climate change. Thank you very much.
Next up is Patrick Roddy, providing evidence through water and rain analysis, health information, what water detoxes us and how, insight on the legality of spraying us, and our role as spiritual beings on the side of light.
I collect evidence. We can all collect evidence. What I do, I live in San Francisco, and this is actually from in Oregon, and so I was up in Oregon for a year, and these are my results from my rainwater test. It's a crap load of sulfur. Oh, well, where have we heard sulfur before? Stratospheric sulfate injections, maybe? This is like, in one time I got like 160 micrograms per liter of barium and nothing on the other ones. Prove they're spraying us. Why don't you just go up there and test it for yourself? Someone did. And here's the flight paths around like this, like in the southern states and Central America. The brown stuff is metals and minerals. And a metal oxide is a mineral. Alumina is a mineral. Okay, this is the mass spectrometry results, and the top one is for mineral dust, aluminum, big freaking spike aluminum there, and they can say, oh, well, maybe that was dust, the bauxite from the ground that somehow managed to get further up than pollen, which is much lighter, but whatever. Iron rusts when you leave it, when you expose it to air and water. How on earth is it staying as iron? Aluminum is highly reactive, and yet they're finding aluminum metal in the stratosphere. They're spraying us. First of all, it's in all our brains. They found crap loads in everyone they tested. We have a huge amount. So this is in our brains already. They are spraying us, and there's proof. And they published it in the most mainstream, widely read scientific journal in America. This is the Eastern Sierras, and this is what our skies have become. We all know it's not a good thing. This isn't water vapor. Right, if I spill some water here, it will evaporate because it's not the air is not completely saturated with water. That's what humidity is. The air cannot hold any more water, and then it will let stuff out as condensation. If it's not 100% humidity, it cannot do this. This isn't water vapor. This guy, he says this year will spray a fine mist of materials such as sulfur dioxide, alumina above Tucson, right? Aluminum. If you go to PubMed and type in aluminum toxicity, you get 5,229 results. You don't get that result if you put in ice cream. It's not good. Why is it not good? This guy, he is awesome. He has been studying aluminum toxicity since the early 80s. His name's Chris, actually. When you breathe in these particles and they get inside your brain, these are very small particles, I actually have some here, I brought some, scary. First, the brain cell will start acting a bit off, and then it gets to a certain point where it undergoes programmed cell death or apoptosis, permanent death. This is how our body usually, if there's a cancer cell, it realizes, turn it out, do not grow, stop, and do not make any more of you damaged cells. Permanent brain damage. That is basically Alzheimer's in a nutshell. Number one cause of death in England and Wales. Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's, right? Down here, 1979, there were 850 deaths nationally, and it goes up, this is under 30,000 here. And it took off. As you can see, it went whoa, and then in the last recent years, it's spiking. This is only up to 2016. And also, this is for Alzheimer's as the primary cause of death. This does not include comorbidity. So these numbers are double. All of these deaths were not only avoidable, they were deliberate. These are all murders. So basically, when you compare first observation of spraying, it matches exactly when it took off. Chris Axley, he was saying that the research in the first half of the 20th century about aluminum was not about Alzheimer's, because the Alzheimer's didn't exist then, as you could see. It was cancer. They knew it was cancer. All the papers published in the first half of the 20th century were about the carcinogenic effects of aluminum, and they don't let those papers get published anymore. Iron particles in our brains, and then expose them to radio frequencies. Wirewolf.
Press the 1 minute and move away.
Oh, yeah, that is a fast kill weapon. The reason I have this bottle here, 2 years ago, I started drinking Mount Shasta water. It's very awesome. When you drink silica-rich water and test your urine afterwards, it is equal amounts of silicon and aluminum. That's how we protect ourselves from aluminum. But I'm asking everyone who's watching this, if you have a spring near you, test water for silicon. If we know what waters help us, we're protecting ourselves. That's how I've been protected from aluminum the entire time I've been doing this. 27,000 micrograms per liter of silicon in the Shasta water that I've been drinking gallons of for 2 years. I'm sorted. And it's also high in magnesium, which would be good, and phosphorus is good. By breathing one of the particles that he says he's going to do, my life will be shortened. Maybe not by much, but it will be shortened, and that is murder. Shortening someone's life is murder. And, I mean, you don't throw around words like murder lightly. But I'll read what Black's Law has to say. The killing of a human being with malice aforethought. He knows it's going to kill people, he's doing it ahead of time, that's malice aforethought. When you go down to first degree murder, Black's Law 8th edition definition is murder that is willful, deliberate, or premeditated, or that is committed during the course of another dangerous felony. All murder perpetrated by poisoning or by lying in wait is considered first degree murder. David Keith, by that precedent, is liable for the percentage of all future Alzheimer's cases in perpetuity, but it's not just David Keith. He's doing it out of Harvard. The Harvard Endowment is exposed. He's also funded by Bill Gates. That foundation is exposed, along with the Hewlett-Packard Foundation, the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, and a bunch of other philanthropists. And I will go to federal court in San Francisco and say, he's trying to kill me! So clear. And if he argues it, I'm going to fly Chris Axley out and we'll put aluminum on trial. If they do not stop, we will destroy them. They will be destroyed. If we do not say no, they'll do it. They are clearly, in plain English, asking our permission for us to agree to our own destruction. And no, that's not going to happen, not my watch. It's a war. Of course it's a war. This is purely a spiritual war being fought in the physical plane. They are from darkness, they're bringing more darkness over here. We are on the light, we bring light that direction. And when people think of wars, they think bullets and bombs and swords and shields. There's an opposite for everything. We create, they destroy, they harm, we heal. We are always guided and protected, and we all have a job to do. Every one of you, everyone is here for a purpose. How can one individual stop something that big? This is the thing to do, and then do it. Let it be awesome. Light cannot be extinguished by darkness. Because we are guided, we will never be put into a position where it will overcome us. We are not going to fight them using their tools. We become awesome. Listen to our guts and do the right thing. Go with things that are awesome. I mean, and there's awesome all around, and you can manifest awesome. It's going to be awesome.
Giving insight on electromagnetic frequency radiation, as well as a behind-the-scenes look at mass media and its impact on society, is Nicole Vetrano.
The most unfortunate thing about the rollout of wireless energy, RF radio frequencies, and EMF electromagnetic microwave frequencies is that we can't visibly see it. Because if we could, no one in their right mind anywhere would be okay with it. If we could see the radiation coming from all this stuff now, it would be done. This man-made propagated energy that is being deployed and keeps increasing across the earth is affecting all living things at a biological and cellular level. As time goes by, more and more science and research not funded by industries are finding evidence of an ever-growing long list of health effects and complications it's having on humans, animals, insects, plants, our food, our water, our psyche, and also our mental well-being. So the ultimate control is to control people without their conscious awareness. Television is a prime example. Krugman monitored a person through many trials and found that in less than 1 minute of television viewing, the person's brain waves switched from beta, basically active and aware waves associated with logical thought, to alpha waves. When the subject stopped watching television and began reading a magazine, the brain waves reverted back to beta waves. Krugman also wrote The Impact of Television Advertising, Learning Without Involvement. The average person now spends an average of 5 hours a day on Facebook. Let's take a look at what a few big Facebook execs have to say about what social media has and continues to do on the populace.
That thought process was all about how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible. And that means that we need to sort of give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while because someone liked or commented on a photo or a post or whatever. And that's going to get you to contribute more content. And that's going to get you, more likes and comments. I mean, it's a social validation feedback loop that it's like it's exactly the kind of thing that a hacker like myself would come up with. You're exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. It literally changes your relationship with society, with each other. It probably interferes with productivity in weird ways. God only knows what it's doing to our children's brains. The inventors, creators understood this consciously. And we did it anyway.
Consumer internet businesses are about exploiting psychology. And that is one where you want to feel fast because, people are unpredictable. And so we want to psychologically figure out how to manipulate you as fast as possible and then give you back that dopamine hit. We have created tools that are ripping apart the social fabric of how society works. If you feed the beast, that beast will destroy you. The short-term dopamine-driven feedback loops that we have created are destroying how society works. No civil discourse, no cooperation, misinformation, mistruth, and it's not an American problem. This is not about Russian ads. I can control my kids' decisions because they're not allowed to do some shit. You don't realize it, but you are being programmed.
That was kind of interesting, right? These are Facebook people saying all kinds of crazy things like I don't use it, and validation feedback loops. I see it. The more likes you get addicted. Like gambling almost. Internet trolls, shills, fake profiles, bots hired for the sole purpose of deception and thought control, that also exists online. This is a paper from Oxford called Troops, Trolls, and Trollmakers, a global inventory of organized social media manipulation. Memes. So memetics I learned about this year, analogous to a gene. The meme was conceived as a unit of culture, an idea, belief pattern of behavior, which is hosted in the minds of one or more individuals, which can reproduce itself in a sense of jumping from the mind of one person to the mind of another. Thus, what would otherwise be regarded as one individual influencing another to adopt a belief is seen as an idea replicator reproducing itself in a new host. As with genetic, military memetics, yes, this actually exists, is the application of memes for national security. If someone online posts a meme that could alter the thoughts of a society, then in comes a military person to deploy a couple different memes around the same place this meme was deployed so that it can diffuse this meme. It's really crazy, actually. Look into the medics. It gets kind of crazy. Okay, moving on. Illusion of choice. Coke or Pepsi, but what's funny in the end of this choice between Coke or Pepsi is that they are both poison. So, media has never been more consolidated. If you can control the information that people get to see, hear, and read, then you get to control perception and reality. This is a video where all the news stations in America all saying the same exact thing around the same time. So, pyramid scheme, yay! If we look at all the institutions and organizations current today, everything that has some sort of order goes up into the structure. I don't think people really quite understand that. That's how they get away with so many crazy things, is that these people working for them don't even know that they're doing anything wrong. Social engineering. The use of centralized planning in an attempt to manage social change and regulate the future development and behavior of a society. Tavistock Institute. So created at Oxford in 1922, the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations has been the nerve center for the global manipulation of human consciousness. They wind you up because they know what makes you tick. The Institute for Social Research, and continue to co-opt legitimate psychosocial research and exploit mass psychology, publicly claiming to research and direct groups and organizations while it continued mass covert operations in social engineering. It remains an influential intelligence organization tied to M16, CIA, Project Paperclip, German scientists, Rockefeller Foundation, and cryptocracy. Founder John Rawlings Rees claimed public life, politics, and industry should all be within our sphere of influence. If we are to infiltrate the professional and social activities of other people, we must aim to make it permeate every educational activity in our national life. We have made a useful attack upon a number of professions. The two easiest of them naturally are the teaching profession and the church. Two most difficult are law and medicine. Tavistock tailors programs to specific situations, as well as setting standards in psychiatry, psychology, and organizational management. It declared itself ultimate authority on mental health and human relations. So there's the brain trust, include war on terror, war on drugs, total information awareness, full spectrum dominance, joint vision 2020, shock and awe, new left, basic English, great society, no child left behind, narco-capitalism, social engineering, SciStrat, and open government. Oh, and also Infowar. You can't really wage a war against an idea, but you can campaign for and against them. In their endless bag of tricks, we also find behavioral modification, mass brainwashing, buzzwords, suppressed science, manufactured wars, counterculture, LSD, new age, cults, isms, disinformation, false flag ops, crisis creation, postmodern apocalypse theory, presence in absence, manufactured psychological shocks and stress, encounter groups, corporate feudalism, and the list goes on. Once people's minds have been indoctrinated and shaped to conform to a particular social cues, people will hold a core belief that is very strong. When they are presented with evidence that works against that belief, the new evidence cannot be accepted. It would create a feeling that is very uncomfortable. And because it is so important to protect the core belief, they will rationalize, ignore, and even deny anything that doesn't fit within the core belief. Divide and conquer. In this strategy, a power breaks the threat or opposition into smaller, more manageable pieces, and then takes control of those pieces one by one. The divide and conquer strategy has been widely used throughout history. Empire, the British Empire, the list goes on. Problem, reaction, solution. When a person or group possesses a desired outcome that the populace would object to, this strategy guarantees an end result for exactly what they had intended to come to fruition in the first place. Propaganda is the deliberate, systematic attempt to shape perceptions, manipulate cognitions, and direct behavior to achieve a response that furthers the desired intent of the propagandist. Here's a cute little quote. Shortly, the public will be unable to reason or think for themselves. They'll only be able to parrot the information they've been given on the previous night's news. Edward Bernays. He was considered the master of propaganda. Bernays also noted that propaganda is the executive arm of the invisible government. This can be seen most clearly in the modern police state and the growing citizen snitch culture, wrapped up in the pseudo-patriotic war on terror. The increasing consolidation of media has enabled the entire corporate structure to merge with government. which now utilizes the concept of propaganda placement. Media, print, movies, television, and cable news can now work seamlessly to integrate an overall message, which seems to have the ring of truth because it comes from so many sources. Simultaneously, when one becomes attuned to identifying the main message, one will see this imprinting everywhere. There was a video I saw of this former journalist and political advisor. Some guy stood up and asked her about the Boston bombing. She kind of tiptoed around the answer of asking if the Boston bombing was a false flag. She said, "It's not crazy to assess news events in the USA and overseas to see if they are real, and in fact, it's kind of crazy not to." That's pretty much all I've got, except for this video here.
Consider this fictitious example that's inspired by real life. Say you're watching the news and you see a story about a new study on the cholesterol-lowering drug called Cholextra. The study says Cholextra is so effective, doctors should consider prescribing it to adults and even children who don't yet have high cholesterol. Is it too good to be true? You're smart, you decide to do some of your own research. You do a Google search, you consult social media, Facebook and Twitter. You look at Wikipedia, WebMD, a nonprofit website, and you read the original study in a peer-reviewed published medical journal. It all confirms how effective Cholextra is. You do run across a few negative comments and a potential link to cancer, but you dismiss that because medical experts call the cancer link a myth and say that those who think there isn't a link there are quacks and cranks and nuts. Finally, you learned that your own doctor recently attended a medical seminar. The lecture that he attended confirmed how effective Cholextra is, so he sends you off with some free samples and a prescription. You've really done your homework. But what if all isn't as it seems? What if the reality you found was false? A carefully constructed narrative by unseen special interests designed to manipulate your opinion. A Truman Show-esque alternate reality all around you. Complacency in the news media combined with incredibly powerful propaganda and publicity forces mean we sometimes get little of the truth. Special interests have unlimited time and money to figure out new ways to spin us while cloaking their role. Surreptitious astroturf methods are now more important to these interests than traditional lobbying of Congress, an entire industry built around it in Washington. What is astroturf? It's a perversion of grassroots, as in fake grassroots. Astroturf is when political, corporate, or other special interests disguise themselves and publish blogs, start Facebook and Twitter accounts, publish ads, letters to the editor, or simply post comments online. Try to fool you into thinking an independent or grassroots movement is speaking. The whole point of AstroTurf is to try to give the impression there's widespread support for or against an agenda when there's not. AstroTurf seeks to manipulate you into changing your opinion by making you feel as if you're an outlier when you're not. One example is the Washington Redskins name. Without taking a position on the controversy, if you simply were looking at news media coverage over the course of the past year or looking at social media, you'd probably have to conclude that most Americans find that name offensive and think it ought to be changed. But what if I told you 71% of Americans say the name should not be changed? That's more than 2/3. AstroTurfers seek to controversialize those who disagree with them. They attack news organizations that publish stories they don't like, whistleblowers who tell the truth, politicians who dare to ask the tough questions, and journalists who have the audacity to report on all of it. Sometimes AstroTurfers simply shove intentionally so much confusing and conflicting information into the mix that you're left to throw up your hands and disregard all of it, including the truth. Drown out a link between a medicine and a harmful side effect, say vaccines and autism, by throwing a bunch of conflicting paid-for studies, surveys, and experts into the mix, confusing the truth beyond recognition. And then there's Wikipedia, AstroTurf's dream come true. Billed as the free encyclopedia that anyone can edit, reality can't be more different. Anonymous Wikipedia editors control and co-opt pages on behalf of special interests. They forbid and reverse edits that go against their agenda. They skew and delete information in blatant violation of Wikipedia's own established policies with impunity, always superior to the poor schlubs who actually believe anyone can edit Wikipedia, only to discover they're barred from correcting even the simplest factual inaccuracies. Try adding a footnoted fact or correcting a fact error on one of these monitored Wikipedia pages of poof. Sometimes within a matter of seconds, you'll find your edit is reversed. In 2012, famed author Philip Roth tried to correct a major fact error about the inspiration behind one of his book characters cited on a Wikipedia page. But no matter how hard he tried, Wikipedia's editors wouldn't allow it. They kept reverting the edits back to the false information. When Roth finally reached a person at Wikipedia, which was no easy task, trying to find out what was going wrong, they told him he simply was not considered a credible source on himself. A few weeks later, there was a huge scandal when Wikipedia officials got caught offering a PR service to dispute and edit information on behalf of paid, publicity-seeking clients in utter opposition to Wikipedia's supposed policies. All of this may be why, when a medical study looked at medical conditions described on Wikipedia pages and compared it to actual peer-reviewed published research, Wikipedia contradicted medical research 90% of the time. You may never fully trust what you read on Wikipedia again, nor should you. Let's now go back to that fictitious Colextra example and all the research you did. It turns out the Facebook and Twitter accounts you found that were so positive were actually written by paid professionals hired by the drug company to promote the drug. The Wikipedia page had been monitored by an agenda editor also paid by the drug company. The drug company also arranged to optimize Google search engine results, so it was no accident that you stumbled across that positive nonprofit that had all those positive comments. The nonprofit was, of course, secretly founded and funded by the drug company. The drug company also financed that positive study and used its power of editorial control to omit any mention of cancer as a possible side effect. What's more, each and every doctor who publicly touted Colextra, or called the cancer link a myth, or ridiculed critics as paranoid pranks and quacks, or served on the government advisory board that approved the drug, each of those doctors is actually a paid consultant for the drug company. As for your own doctor, the medical lecture he attended that had all those positive evaluations was, in fact, like many continuing medical education classes, sponsored by the drug company. When the news reported on that positive study, it didn't mention any of that. I have tons of personal examples from real life. A couple of years ago, CBS News asked me to look into a story about a study coming out from the nonprofit National Sleep Foundation. Supposedly, this press release coming out said, the study concluded we are a nation with an epidemic of sleeplessness and we don't even know it. We should all go ask our doctors about it. A couple of things struck me about that. First, I recognized the phrase, ask your doctor, as a catchphrase promoted by the pharmaceutical industry. They know that if they can get your foot through the door of the doctor's office to mention a malady, you're very likely to be prescribed the latest drug that's marketed. Second, I wondered how serious an epidemic of sleeplessness could really be if we don't even know that we have it. It didn't take long for me to do a little research and discover that the National Sleep Foundation nonprofit and the study, which was actually a survey, not a study, were sponsored in part by a new drug that was about to be launched onto the market called Lunesta, a sleeping pill. I reported the study as CBS News asked, but of course I disclosed the sponsorship behind the nonprofit and the survey so the viewers could weigh the information accordingly. All the other news media reported the same survey directly off the press release as written without digging past the superficial. It later became an example written up in the Columbia Journalism Review, which quite accurately reported that only we at CBS News had bothered to do a little bit of research and disclose the conflict of interest behind this widely reported survey. So now you may be thinking, what can I do? I thought I'd done my research. What chance do I have separating fact from fiction, especially if seasoned journalists with years of experience can be so easily fooled? Well, I have a few strategies that I can tell you about to help you recognize signs of propaganda and AstroTurf. Once you start to know what to look for, you'll begin to recognize it everywhere. First, hallmarks of AstroTurf include use of inflammatory language such as prank, quack, nutty, lies, paranoid, pseudo, and conspiracy. AstroTurfers often claim to debunk myths that aren't myths at all. Use of the charged language tests well. People hear something's a myth, maybe they find it on Snopes, and they instantly declare themselves too smart to fall for it. But what if the whole notion of the myth is itself a myth, and you at Snopes fell for that? Beware when interests attack an issue by controversializing or attacking the people, personalities, and organizations surrounding it rather than addressing the facts. That could be AstroTurf. And most of all, AstroTurfers tend to reserve all of their public skepticism for those exposing wrongdoing rather than the wrongdoers. In other words, instead of questioning authority, they question those who question authority. You might start to see things a little more clearly. It's kind of like taking off your glasses and wiping them and putting them back on and realizing for the first time how foggy they've been all along. You can't resolve these issues, but I hope that I've given you some information that will at least motivate you to take off your glasses and wipe them and become a wiser consumer of information in an increasingly artificial paid-for reality.
I hope everyone enjoyed my talk on mind manipulation.
The grand finale is a lyrical beast. Get ready for the talented young hip-hop artist that goes by the rapper name Homage.
I was with my friends one time, just sitting there talking, and they're spraying the sky, doing their thing, normal stuff. And I'm like looking at it, I'm like, man. And they were hitting it with the harp rays and stuff. It's just really funky looking. You guys know how it is. And I was like, man, it looks like, you know, like a digital thing. It looks like a computer up there, something. And I was like, they're like, digital clouds, man.
A wave of water that came through the village, killing 35 people. Weather manipulation. It's been going on that long. They have strontium, they have barium, it's acidifying water, it's acidifying the land. The ability to generate precipitation, fog storms on Earth, to modify space weather, and the production of artificial weather, all are part of an integrated set of military technology.
They're spraying chemicals in nanoparticle form. The government is using HAARP to be starting a storm. The water shortage is a topic they're complaining about, but they don't even want to stop it. They're creating the drought. Planes now make clouds when they spray out shit. You can see it cause it happens every day now, kid. You can read the patents and see what they say about this. They make towns sick, it ain't safe to stay around this. If they didn't mean to leave a trail that scatters in the sky, why am I seeing geometric patterns from the lines? You're blind to the facts and afraid of the truth. Your mind's trapped by the lies that they say in the news. Planes spew poison out starting barely at dawn, cause they treat us like rats that they experiment on. Anybody would agree that it clearly is wrong. I hope you do something about it after hearing this song. I see airplanes spraying shit on my town. Television being used for conditioning now. No one even speaks about it like it isn't allowed. The sky's made of white snakes and digital clouds. I see airplanes spraying shit on my town. Television being used for conditioning now. No one even speaks about it like it isn't allowed. The sky's made of white snakes and digital clouds. The weather's controlled, it's part of a malevolent goal, but they got us all believing in whatever we're told. While we're sold lies and myths about climate change, white clouds fly out from behind the plains. Nice days turn gray, no more sunny blue skies. Whole states in a haze, started from a few lines. Lies and deceit only help it increase. This is for the poor fellas with Morgellons disease. The executives of Wall Street get it paid for killer schemes, sending out a hurricane to devastate the Philippines. It's real me, all the shit is just messed up, based on the technology of Nikola Tesla. Unless the people fucking wake up soon, we'll be consumed by the evil, then we're straight up doomed. I assume that you care about your family, your friends. We need to all work together so this tragedy ends. I see airplanes spraying shit on my town. Television being used for conditioning now. No one even speaks about it like it isn't allowed. The sky's made of white snakes and digital clouds. I see airplanes spraying shit on my town. Television being used for conditioning now. No one even speaks about it like it isn't allowed. The sky's made of white snakes and digital clouds. They get tornadoes to grow, make volcanoes explode, even giant tidal waves and hurricanes to control. Planes flown in the Gulf for spraying to fuel Katrina. They started earthquakes in Haiti and Fukushima. They seem to torture nations so their cash will increase. Different corporations profit from disaster relief, and the source of motivation now would have to be greed and domination of the planet from the land to the sea. Need to read about it and think of any reason that we'd allow it. Let's defeat it now or we'll be devoured by evil cowards. We think the powers in control are so untouchable, but with these guns I hold, I'll overload them with a bunch of holes. I crush skulls of the souls with corrupt goals. Climate control, turn California to a dust bowl. The whole world's falling prey to a few, and the only person who can still save it is you. I see airplanes spraying shit on my town. Television being used for conditioning now. No one even speaks about it like it isn't allowed. The sky's made of white snakes and digital clouds. I see airplanes spraying shit on my town. Television being used for conditioning now. No one even speaks about it like it isn't allowed. The sky's made of white snakes and digital clouds.
On behalf of Actual Activists, thank you for taking your time.